Do you want to know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to Real Talk Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com. You can tell it's a Monday already because it's Veterans Day. I was out and about, and lots of people out there celebrating right now, and with good reason. Make sure you say thanks to all the veterans that are out there. I served in the Air Force myself, and I had a host of people reach out this morning, and of course I did the same thing back. But make sure you tell everybody thanks for their service, and tip of a hat is a good thing. And also want to thank our sponsors, Allstate Hardin Insurance Group on Toledo Blade, along with Lions Title and Trust on Toledo Blade 2559 Toledo Blade, and also Remax Palm Realty of Port Charlotte and Venice, as they are major sponsors for us, and we look forward to working with anyone else that's out there who would like to have a sponsorship at the radio station. I also want to put something up from Northport Forward, the supporting our child care needs in Northport. We have a huge symposium that we're going to put together. Really need to get out, and if you've got some issues with child care, please come out, get involved. You can reach out to me at 941-391-4663 if you need any other help. But this actually is a flyer that's being shown on our Facebook feed through WKDWRadio.com and also on Real Talk Radio on Facebook. Thank you so much. And our special guest in the house today is none other than our Chief of Fire, Chief Titus. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's Veterans Day, and so thank you for your service, and thank you to all the veterans out there. We really, really appreciate what you did so that we can do what we do.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's kind of like a brotherhood across the board, because I was part of the civil engineering department at Anchorage Air Force Base up in Alaska, and right outside my window was the runway, which we could look down and see the fire and rescue team down there, and we often played you guys, not you guys, but fire department and the police department on base in softball. So we had a great camaraderie between all of us. And in Alaska, the beautiful thing was that you had nighttime in the wintertime, but in the summertime we played ball almost 24 hours a day. So it was kind of a cool setup. But I
don't know about in Alaska, but down here in Florida, you know, we always beat the cops. So I don't know how you did up there, but
well, see, we always beat everybody, so it was good.
Okay, all right, that's good.
It was good. So I also have Dave Ingalls in the house. How you doing? Oh, I'm barely picking you up. You're.
Is that better?
A little bit, but go ahead, real quick. Just let everybody.
We appreciate you having us on today.
Awesome. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So my name is Dave Ingalls. I'm a full-time district chief at Northport Fire Rescue on P shift, and the part-time public information officer.
Awesome. What does that? What's the part-time public information officer do?
So I handle the social media accounts on Facebook and Instagram, and assist with essentially the marketing of the fire department and sharing all the great things that our department does day in and day out, between running calls. All the stuff in the community where, you know, Chief Titus has us quite busy at public events and doing smoke detectors. And, you know, one thing we say about Northport Fire Rescue is we rarely ever say no to a request. So we'll see you out in the community, not only running calls, but for any event that you may have.
So I know the value of it, and I think a lot of citizens know, but what is the value of trying to get the information out through social media as far as the fire department is concerned?
I think the big thing is it humanizes us a little bit. You know, the first time we meet these people. You don't necessarily want to be on an emergency call, but they see us at these events, they see us in the streets. It makes us more personable. So if there is an incident at their homes, we're part of the community. We're part of their family now, and they can relate. And the reality is, we do so many great things in the city, and it's an honor to be able to kind of show off and brag what our men and women do each day in and day out.
What are some of the things that you guys do to give back to the citizens, though?
So recently, we do a lot of station tours. We'll go to schools. We'll talk about fire safety. We'll show off our trucks and our equipment. We start from the earliest ages, from 2, 3, 4 years old, all the way up into the high schools. We talk about what the values we're going to bring to the city, and at the same time, hopefully recruit some of these people to maybe a career in the fire service.
Awesome. Chief Titus, since the 90s, social media has kind of transitioned. How do you feel about having this as part of your unit now?
Well, I can tell you, I'm a little happy that we didn't have all these cameras and social media in the 90s. I'm not sure I'd be the fire chief. It's great. Honestly, it's a fantastic marketing tool. Having Pub Ed out there, as Chief Ingalls was saying, less than 5% of the community, we touch less than 5% of the community every year when we run calls. So there's a lot of people that really don't know what we do. There's other events we do throughout the year, giving back. We have a benevolent fund that raises money that all of our firefighters personally put money into every month. And we use that. Half of that fund goes to helping to take care of firefighters and their families. The other half of that fund goes to helping somebody in the community. So we sponsor, softball teams, volleyball teams. We sponsor, anything like that. If they come forward and they ask, we'll have a meeting and we'll do that. We do a fundraiser at least once a year where we sell T-shirts in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we typically pick a family, somebody in Northport that's in need, and we donate the proceeds from that T-shirt sales event to that family. Christmas time we do meals. We raise money and provide meals for families, and then also we adopt families through social services and provide gifts to them so that kids that might not otherwise have a great Christmas have a great Christmas. We deliver those in the fire truck, which is always a whole lot of fun, and just a lot of stuff throughout the year. We do the pumpkin patch that we just did recently. Actually, we had a community member that stepped forward and made $1,000 donation towards the pumpkin. So we were able to give smaller pumpkins away to kids that came up. And again, the proceeds from that then will be donated to something towards the community. So it's great.
How do you feel this connection back to the citizenry has changed the departments over your career?
Well, when I started in the 90s, I think we were a little bit like the Bad News Bears. The fire department and EMS combined in 1985, and so that was really at its inception. And Northport, there just really wasn't much here. Pay scale wasn't great. There was a lot going on. It was really just formulating from a volunteer fire department and a private ambulance service and merging. And at that time, paramedicine was relatively new anyway in the field, and so. We used to go. I remember when I first got hired in the early 90s, we'd go into the hospital and the nurses just really weren't thrilled to see us coming. And, we've changed that over the years now to where I think they are very happy to see us coming on both sides of the house, on the fire side of the house and EMS. Really just kind of changed and have taken and embraced, the cutting edge of technology, the cutting edge of what service industry expects for us and what we provide to the community, and trying to do the best for our community that we can.
Dave, as far as the citizens are concerned, I'm sure you get good feedback there. How does the department overall feel about the connection back to the citizens? How do they feel their relationship helps grow and link together?
It's the expectation that being a Northport firefighter, you're going to be involved in the community, you're going to reach out. So it's all in a day's work, essentially. We're excited to get the feedback. Usually when we show up at someone's house, it's their worst day. But the way we deliver our care in a compassionate manner, it makes their worst day a little bit better. And so to get the feedback that they'll see on social media comments, it's always extremely positive, and I think it's an extra motivator for these people, for our people to go out and just do that job 110%.
Fantastic. So I'll go back to you, Chief, with everything that you guys do, and I know there's some great camaraderie. I've seen you guys. I've seen you in action in the EOC, and we got to spend some time there. All of the things that you do that people aren't aware of. That one of those days that we were in the EOC, you talked about jumping in the truck and going out and checking water levels and different things like that. There's more to your job than just firefighting, isn't there?
Absolutely. Firefighting is really actually a small percentage of what we do, certainly on a daily basis. The majority of our call volume is emergency medical services now. It's about 85% of our call volume. And people say, well, why do you have these, the big fire trucks? Well, our fire trucks are all equipped with medical equipment as well. So as a matter of fact, this year, our last two fire apparatus that are not advanced life support will become advanced life support. That's actually in the process right now. So when a fire truck shows up on the scene, they can do everything that an ambulance can except transport you to the hospital. So, fire, emergency medical services, technical rescue. So, swift water. People don't really think about Northport as having swift water, but when we get some of the floods around some of the water control structures and things like that, there's some significant dangers there. People, we tell them, don't go out in the flood waters, don't go out and drive, but they do. And so, we end up in some situations where we have to rescue people or get them out. We have rope rescue. So somebody's stuck on a radio tower or something like that. Confined space, trench rescue. We've had a few close calls with trench rescue going around the city, when they're putting pipes in and things like that. VMR, which is probably the most commonly used, it's vehicle and machinery extrication. They every vehicle actually we go out to, almost all of our people are trained in that and are really, really very good at removing a vehicle from around somebody when they're trapped. So there's really a lot that goes into it. And then, certainly the administrative side, which is, I always tell people it's my favorite part of fire school, which is complete sarcasm. But that's, the biggest part of the job really sometimes is sitting behind the desk and formulating, budgets and having discussions and looking to the future, where we are, where we were, where we're going, and where we want to go, kind of setting those targets and, talking to the team and make sure that everybody's aligned and getting feedback and making sure, we want to take really good care of our people because happy people do really good work. And we've been very successful. Our personnel, I'll put our personnel up against anybody. They are just absolutely phenomenal. The boots on the street do an amazing job. And it's such an honor to be able to represent them and lead them because they really, really take everything that we do to heart. So.
Well, what I find is really cool. There's two things I want to follow up on here real quick. I know that the recruitment from within, so to speak, the high school, we have a lot of Northport High School representation at the department, which I love because keeping local is a great thing, and going through the training. But I also want to piggyback off of something that you brought up, which was that every vehicle is basically a full blown first responder, from paramedic to firefighter. But can you talk about that and how that really affects the last part of what you said, which was the budget criteria side of things? It really, I think, to me, looks like you're a full efficiency of a department when everybody is able to do everything.
Yeah, it's really interesting. If you go to some fire departments, especially some of the bigger city fire departments, if you ride the back seat on an engine, they might call you the hydrant. You're the plug man or you're the pipe man, and you hook into the hydrant, and that's your job. You take the hose, and that's your job. And we don't have the luxury of doing that. They run 4 personnel, 6 personnel on their fire apparatus, and they're very, very heavily staffed. So we run 3 personnel on all of our fire apparatus and 2 personnel on all of our ambulances. And so we really need to be jack of all trades. We need to be very good at every position and everything that we do. So the expectation when you show up on scene, if you're assigned rapid intervention crew, if you're assigned hose attack, if you're assigned search crew, if you're assigned water supply, if you're assigned, vent group to go to the roof, all of those things we have to be proficient at. And then as soon as we finish that, if there's victims, we need to make sure we're good and invest in our EMS skills and increase their best chance of survivability. So back to what you said about the high school, I call those hometown heroes. We love hiring local people because we know they're committed to the area. We know that they have connections and ties. When I say, a lot of the people in the community don't know us, the more community members that we can bring onto our team that are valuable members, they reach lots of other people and their family members in the community. And so that helps spread the word of what we do and how we are. I think I talked to you before the high school program. They discontinued a couple of years ago, and we're trying to apply a little bit of pressure. We'd like to have them bring that back. But we actually just talked this past week about going out to high school and talking to high school seniors. And we were going to start an Explorer program, which is under 18 years old, to expose some younger crowds to our career and see if they were interested. And we're kind of looking at our strategy right now and talking about whether or not we should do a volunteer program that's over 18 and try and grab some of these high schoolers that maybe didn't have a chance to go through the fire academy in their high school years and see if that's an option, because I think there are still a lot of people maybe in their high school year that aren't sure what they want to do yet that might be great picks. So I'm actually meeting with some representatives from Team Court with a young man next week actually to talk. He's expressed a desire to get in the fire service. So he's going to sit down and talk to him and give him a little bit of information and see if it's something that he'd like to do. So,
well, and this is a true career path. You don't have to go to college for it, but there are things that you guys do to enhance education side of things too at the fire department. Can you talk about the education that you have to put new people through, but also the retraining that you guys do?
Sure. Well, minimum standards, you have to be a minimum of a firefighter EMT to get hired. And then paramedic school is an additional year on top of that. So some of our people come to us as paramedics, but we've actually found that existing employees that have showed a commitment and demonstrated that this is where they want to be and they're good employees, we'll send them to paramedic school. And that really pays off in the long run. It takes a little bit more time and a little bit more money, but they become long-term dedicated employees and they're grateful for that opportunity and they pay it back through their years of service to this community. So it's worked out really well for us. I will tell you, you say you don't have to go to college, but I encourage all of our personnel to go to college. And I would say if you looked at the number of our people that are either in college or have college degrees right now, I think we probably blow the doors off of most other fire departments.
Fantastic.
I literally every day I'm signing paperwork for people to go to school. It's actually pretty amazing. It's a blessing. Anybody interested in this career, I will say I was not a guy that liked school. And when I found out what I wanted to do and it pointed me in the direction, and I realized you don't ever want to have a door closed just for reasons of education. So you begin going back to school and you're taking classes that you like, that you have an interest in, and you see the value in taking those because they open doors for you potentially in the future. And it kind of adds tools to your toolbox in everything that you do, whether it's writing a better report, whether it's being, better prepared as a leader or as a manager. We have very, very rigorous engineer program, which requires, some math. There's a lot of calculations they do. But it's not cumbersome because it's something that people have found a passion for and they enjoy. So.
Fantastic. Dave, do you have anything to add in there?
That's the thing about service that makes it so exciting is you're always trying to learn, and there's different paths that you can take. If you want to go in the medic field, or you want to become an engineer like Chief Titus was talking about, or taking your technical rescue classes, all it's different avenues, different strokes for different folks. But like Chief was saying, to work your way up the ranks, you do need to get that extra education. The college is important. It makes you more well-rounded overall.
Fantastic. I always look at the camaraderie of the fire department, the police department, city hall. I look at all that excitement that they kind of bring. There's when you walk into certain places, you kind of get that, oh my gosh, it's not really great here. It's not bad, but it's not great. Every time I've ever been around any of the staff or the fire department or the PD, It's at a different level. I got to tell you, I asked this question the other day about retention. How is our retention? Because I got to believe it's off the charts.
Our retention is good now. We went through some times when our contract we weren't really competitive. I can tell you under current leadership and management over the last 6, 7, 8 years, they've recognized that if you want to have valuable people, you have to be competitive in the marketplace, and they've supported us in doing that. So our people, not everything is about money, but you have to feel valued. And so we're not the best paid out there, but we are competitive, and our people know that we go to bat. We go to bat for them. With that comes very high expectations of what their service level and their performance is, and they pay that back tenfold. So I will say I remember days when I used to get up in the morning and I would actually kind of conceal how happy I was going to work because, my wife doesn't love her job. She does very well at it, but I wouldn't say it's a love or it's a passion. And I think a lot of people go through that. And, to get up and go to work, the fire department, especially Northport Fire Department, it's a great feeling. It's a great vibe. Like you said, the camaraderie, the whole team cohesion and everything is great. And I really, really have enjoyed that. Chief Ingalls brings a lot of that. Chief Ingalls and I have known each other for 30 years. Yeah. So we started, I started at Nokomis. Chief Ingalls started at Nokomis too, both as volunteers years ago. We both ended up down here in Northport. So we've known each other a long time. That camaraderie goes back, and there's a lot of people throughout the organization that have that same, kinship. And then all of us at Northport that have worked together for a long time. And even though we have a lot of new members who are, we push them very, very hard to be the best. And we have a very, very high standard. And they take it very well because they feel that sense of family, they feel that sense of belonging, and they feel that sense of pride. We don't ever like to kick our mutual aid partners in the teeth because that's not good. They provide good services, but we do take a little bit of pride in picking up their hose line while they're still trying to get ready and go in and put the fire out, and then we'll put it back down for them. But
I want to turn this a little bit now and talk a tad bit about what the fire department means to citizens. And I'm going to come at this from a different level. And I know for a fact you're going to be able to answer this, but there is something to be said about strategic locations of a fire department and homeowners insurance. We look at all of those things strategically as our city grows. We're at 97,000 now. We're going to be busting 100,000 rather quickly. But don't we look at the strategic placement of the fire departments, and that really tends to keep homeowners insurance premiums at a much lower level too, doesn't it?
So there's a lot that goes into station locations. Years ago we did a master plan and kind of looked throughout the community where we thought we would add stations as time went on and as we continued to grow out. ISO, which is the Insurance Services Organization, ISO is what almost all insurance companies used to use to base their fire rates on for insurance. That's not necessarily the case anymore. It's not quite as widespread as it used to be, but it still applies. And our ISO rating is the highest that it can be. I can tell you between an ISO 1 and ISO 2, on a homeowner's insurance policy, it probably wouldn't even tell any difference at all. On a commercial property, you may tell a little bit of difference. But when you go 2 or 3 categories for ISO, you go from a 1 to a 4 or something like that. Yeah, there's definitely an identifiable difference. So location counts. We also look at it's not just for fire calls. Fires grow rapidly and systematically. So we need to get there quickly and try to keep that fire in the area of origin. But for medical calls too, you only have so much time that passes until you begin getting, if it's cardiac arrest, you begin getting death of the heart muscle or it affects the brain. So there's a certain amount of time that we want to be there. So we look at all those things. The challenging thing with the city of Northport is because it was a pre-planned community and they put all the canal systems in and everything else, there's really 3 east-west corridors in the whole city. There's I-75, there's Price, and US 41. So when one of those is under construction or there's a little fender bender on one of them or something like that, obviously that affects things. So you begin looking at where station locations are that that kind of minimize all of that. So as we grow, we look at that. We look at our times in certain areas when if our response times start getting a little bit longer or getting stretched because a newer area of the community is developed, we know, it's time to start, pulling the trigger or get ready to pull the trigger on a new location. And that's a very planned, we take statistics every month, every week, every month, every year, and look at that for areas of growth and plan where the next stations are going to be, when they're going to be populated. One of the reasons we're doing a hiring right now is for a future station. It's not for current staffing. It's for the next station that's going to open up, which is going to be in Welland Park. And the station after that is probably Toledo Blade and I-75 area. And then we'll continue going from there. But it absolutely has a lot to do with location, how quickly we can get there, and everything else.
So the citizens that are making any comments, feel free to do that. Any questions you may have. Just a glitch in the system, not with myself, but the communication with the streaming service and Facebook. So you'll see your post come up as Facebook user. Unfortunately, I can't put your name up there because I can't adjust for that right now, but they are working on that problem in the software glitch that they have. I'm glad you pointed all those things out about the future, really calls that you may have during construction, because we have a major problem coming up with I think what you've already been dealing with and planning, which is Price Boulevard. Have you guys already kind of dissected that? And I'm sure that there's meetings preemptively on all this stuff.
So they'll do an MOT when that starts, where they'll talk about traffic, and then we'll have discussions between PD and, this project has kind of hit the table so many times that we've planned for it, and then that's been shelved and planned for it and been shelved. And so we know that it's happening now. One of the things that, had it happened years ago, there wasn't as much traffic, it would have been a little bit easier. Now that there's more traffic, I guess the benefit is that we actually do have stations strategically located throughout the city. So although this travel time along Price still will be affected, there are other routes and there's other stations that are closer. So it really just depends on the type of call. Unfortunately, whoever arrives on that call first can begin going to work and do things until they get backup units. And depending on how that traffic is, morning time, school time, and afternoons when school's let out, Price Boulevard sometimes is not going to be that best route. So then we're looking at Toledo Blade, we're looking at I-75, 41, and see what's better. But yeah, it's absolutely a discussion point.
And Dave, do you have anything to add in on that?
Chief Titus administration.
Hold on. Your mic is, something's up with your mic. That's your phone?
I think maybe lean in close, Dave. It's just
lean in close.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is our administration is always planning ahead. You look at Ian, when the Price Bridge went out, they had plans in place to staff extra units throughout the city, especially on that side of Price. So there's always contingency in place that we're ready to implement in the event we need it.
Fantastic. The coordination of all that has to get kind of crazy at times, but with what you guys do with PD, and I will say this, with the Ian floods, didn't you guys learn massively a completely different way to run calls with all the bridges down at that point in time?
Oh, absolutely. And then, as Chief Engel said, we had to upstaff, add additional units between those locations where the bridges were out, and certainly running calls out in the estates and the areas that was flooded. We had a lot of our own resources, but there were a lot of resources that came that volunteered, and so trying to harness them all together and put them into a coordinated effort so that we weren't backtracking or doing double work and things like that. It took a little bit of time to get that under control because people just showed up. And so these next storms, we've had better communications on trying to get out to some of those groups that traditionally, I'll use Cajun Navy as an example. There's been a couple others, and we'll proactively now we're reaching out to them. If you come in and we have them check in through through the command post, through the fire department doc, we call it. It's a department operations center. They check in, and we actually utilize them as a resource. But now we know where they are, what they're doing, and we use them as part of our resources and give them an area to search or an area to go and provide relief to, or an area to go evacuate people or deliver water or do things like that, instead of everybody kind of doing their own thing. So that was a monumental storm for us, and a big change, and just an influx of resources so quickly that we hadn't called for, that it took a few hours to get that under control, but we were able to do that.
I think that has to come with each and every storm, because each and every storm is different. But that particular storm, all this stopping and starting of rerouting of Price Boulevard, you kind of had some knowledge of what you wanted to do, and then throw the chaos of that in. But I got to tell you, as much as everyone wants to look at the delay of Price Boulevard as a negative, there's some really good positives, I think, that came out of that. Because I think if we'd have started that infrastructure, we may have lost some of the stuff that we started to build anyway. And now they're going to be hardened even better. But also the management of the traffic flow had to be something you guys really analyzed and have kept in your minds for the upcoming construction too, right?
Absolutely. Well, and we learned in that storm and many others. So PD was an amazing resource for helping with traffic control and flow. Public Works, Chuck Speak, the director of Public Works.
Fantastic.
I mean, they had those roads and bridges. Utilities had the water repaired. I know to some people it seemed like a long time, but I can tell you things like that don't happen quickly. It was actually quite amazing how quickly they got everything up and running and back together, and to get traffic flowing regularly down Price Boulevard. It was a pretty incredible feat.
We have the Northport Forward has the groups that United Tour that were going around and educating people, but our city manager Jerome Fletcher, he says all the time, we have a lot of years, over 100 years worth of experience. When you put that into a crisis situation, I saw it firsthand when I was at the EOC with you guys. There is something to be said about a room full of experience when you're facing crisis or when you're facing changes. And can you talk about how you guys handle those things? I mean, I know that people don't really understand the EOC as well as you do, and how that actually works for the citizens, by the way. I think it's for the citizens across the board, but can you kind of highlight that?
Well, the EOC is really kind of a microcosm of what's happening all around us throughout the state and the country too. So the state has what's called a SERP, a State Emergency Response Plan. So the EOC for us locally is our hub in the city, and it has representatives from each of the major department operating centers. So police, fire, utilities, public works. Then there's finance in there to keep track of cost accounting. We have representatives there from IT to make sure that everything is up and running. We have representatives for GIS so that we have mapping capabilities, things like that, and on and on. And so it's kind of a major hub for everything that's going on. And then coming out from that in two different areas. One outward to the county. So Sarasota County has an emergency operations center. So we communicate directly with them. When we need resources, we request resources through the county. The county requests those through the state. And then those resources are deployed as requested to the areas where they're needed and things like that. And then our EOC is also talking to each of the department operations centers. So utilities, public works, fire, and police have their own operating center within their own building somewhere strategically placed throughout the city. So they're safe during the storm and they're ready to go to work. And basically, like I'll use fire as an example. That's where fire sets up any incoming resources. They set up a staging area. They take care of the tactics and the strategy for what's happening for fire operations. But then all of that's coordinated. If police is doing some emergency rescue functions, they'll fall under the dock for fire because rescue is our responsibility. And so everybody kind of works together to kind of seamlessly get all of that done, and it communicates very well. I can tell you, the city manager's office, 100 years experience out of that office, which is pretty amazing. Myself, I've got 31 years in Northport. Chief Engels has 27, 24. 24. So District Chief Engels, most of our district chiefs are right around the 20-year mark, or plus or minus a couple, most of them plus. I can tell you Chief Lane, who's the Deputy Chief of Operations for the department, if this tells you anything, he grabbed me off the street as a kind of a snot-nosed punk when I was 20 years old, and he was the chief at Nokomis. So he's been around for a minute. Our EMS division chief has over 50 years in the fire service. So we've got a pretty stacked deck. Both of our trading officers are in their 20-year range. Chief Hurley, he's at his 20-plus year range. So we're, as far as knowledge, experience, knowing the area, knowing the people, the resources, how the system's set up, how to access resources and get things out. And we're very fortunate. So I had somebody say to me one day, they didn't know how I did it. I think I got lucky a whole lot of times, but we kind of put together the Super Bowl Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we've been rocking it for a few years. They've been doing a really great job.
Well, my follow-up was going to be, what do the citizens get from all that experience? But you kind of humbly just said that.
Yeah, they do an amazing job. And as I said, for me, it's so easy to be the chief because I have such great people. Honestly, they make my job very, very easy. You know, a lot of times I'm calling and asking a question, they've already taken care of it. You know, everybody is really good with checks and balances. So, you know, there's not things that are falling through the cracks. Everybody is trained in multiple disciplines as well. So it's not just a subject matter expert in one area, which helps, because if we're having a heavier burden on the EMS side or a heavier burden on the fire side, you know, everybody's helping out. We get a brush fire that's running out on the east end of the city, and it's, you know, 500 acres, and it's running on us. All hands are on deck, EMS and fire, every side, the administration, everybody's out there, you know, with a handle on that, helping our crews that are on the street, helping dedicate them, get the resources they need, help assign them. And the same thing on EMS. If an MCI comes in, it's both sides of the houses are coming together to handle that. So that's to the benefit of our community.
So I'm going to ask you this because it is directly to the citizens, because the most important thing to them about a response is the response time that you get to them. But talk to us, the citizenry, about why that, other than that particular facet of it, why is response time such a critical part of your discussions in the inner workings?
Well, as it goes back to a little bit of what I said earlier. So fire increases exponentially every minute. So a small fire becomes a much bigger fire very, very rapidly. And so, you know, 25 years ago, building materials, Class A materials, most houses and furniture were made out of wood and cotton and, you know, regular materials. And so sometimes a room wouldn't reach flashover stage, which is at about 1400 degrees. That's when everything bursts into flames. It might be 9 or 10 minutes until that happens. You know, flashover now happens sometimes after we get on, or before we even get on scene, because all the synthetics, as you begin to heat up all these plastics and things like that, they off gas. And some of those things that they're off gassing, you know, they'll catch fire at 200, 250 degrees. And so it doesn't take a very hot fire to very rapidly build that up. And so you reach flashover now sometimes in 3 minutes, 2.5 and 3 minutes. So the average survivability time is significantly less in a fire now than what it used to be. That's why it's so important to have smoke detectors, to have early notification, to have those stations located strategically, like you said. We may not have a full complement on scene. You know, the NFPA recommends how many people we should put on scene in the first 17 minutes. But we want somebody on scene a lot faster than that. That first crew shows up, and there's nobody behind them, and we know we have people inside. They're going inside by themselves to get those people out because they know that they're up against the clock, and we've got to go in and get them out. And I believe we're the best at doing that of anybody. Our people train continually to do that. A couple of years ago, you saw we added the training tower to the city. That's been an absolute blessing to be able to do that. It's kind of a lifelong ambition for a lot of us to get that up and going, and a lot of people contributed to that project over the years to get it done. And what a great resource for us to have, for crews to be able to pull up, have active fire going on, go in, do a quick search, and know what some of those things are, so that they're not seeing it for the first time now. When they show up to somebody's house, they're practiced and they're going through, and it's routine for them.
So we talked about the importance of the citizens. So I'm gonna come at you with this. How do you guys protect your staff when they are going out, when they are going in, and they know they're first responders? We all know that they wear a badge of courage, and they go into situations. But can you talk about some of the safety side of things that you guys uh, promote and kind of hold the line at?
Sure. So it starts day one as an employee. So we put our employees through a pretty rigorous physical. It's called Life Scan, but it's a very, very comprehensive physical. It's not something you get at your normal doctors. It's early identification of disease states, of anything that's happening in your body that's abnormal. Looks for tumors, looks for all kinds of things. And obviously, when you're in your young 20s, you don't expect something like that. But we've found some things at early identification. We've actually found some firefighters that tried to come and work for us that realized if I entered this career, it wouldn't be good for me because of something they had pre-existing that they weren't aware of. And then every year we do that. So we track our firefighters from the time they get hired as they go through, and you can see what those processes are and make sure that we're continuing to keep them healthy. So that from a standpoint of preventative and looking at what's going on, then of course they have to follow up with their doctor to manage those things. Their bunker gear right now, we're working on, everybody has two sets of bunker gear. They have a primary set they keep with them, and then they have a secondary set that we keep in logistics. But this year, one of the things we're doing is there's a chemical that's in firefighting gear which helps protect us from heat. Turns out it also causes cancer. So I'm sure people have heard about it. It's PFAS. It's in almost everything around us. But when it's exposed to heat, it becomes even worse, and it's absorbed in through the skin. And so they've identified over years that can be contributory to some of this particular types of cancer that firefighters get. So there's been some legislative action which helps protect our firefighters in the event that they come down with certain types of cancer. So they have certain benefits that are available called under the presumptive illness legislation, which is a blessing. Although of course we hate to ever use it. One of our firefighters is going through that battle right now, and this year we're buying everybody one complete set of PFAS-free gear. So those are getting ready to be ordered right now, and then we will follow that up when we purchase their next set. They'll have a second set of PFAS gear and everything. All the old stuff will be gone and retired. State-of-the-art breathing equipment to keep their lungs safe. So they have that. The fire apparatus, all within the NFPA qualifications and standards to make sure that they have the safest equipment out there. They all have rollover protection for vehicle accidents, and they have all the equipment on them that they need to manage for any incident to keep them safe. And then the biggest thing is training every day, setting the standard of what that is. A prepared firefighter is a safe firefighter. You can't take all of the risk out of the job that we do. Our job is inherently dangerous. I say our job quite liberally because I don't get to kick doors in and do that stuff anymore, although that was a fun part of the job. But the firefighter's job is inherently dangerous. We can't remove all of that, but we do put all the things in place I think that we can to keep them as safe as they possibly can. And really the biggest part of that is making sure that they're well trained, having no knowledge of firefighter survival techniques, so that if there's nobody to get them out, they can figure out how long can I make a bottle last until somebody can get to me. How can I self-extricate or remove myself? How can I disentangle? Can I learn how to take my pack off in a zero visibility environment if I have to, and to be able to negotiate around or underneath or over top of an object, how to breach a wall in zero visibility to be able to get out. Familiarization with radio communications. We've just bought all new radios for the department. It was time for replacement. The new NFPA standard talks about how much heat exposure those radios can have, so that they will never fail as a result of fire so that a firefighter can continue to communicate if they're trapped. So I could go on. It's a lot.
When you just sit back and listen to you talk about all this stuff, and we started out the show with what we did with hey, let's just slide into a conversation. The realization that the responsibility towards the citizens is huge, let alone their safety when they're thinking about all this stuff, and the citizens at the same time. And under a crisis situation. Dave, do you have anything to add in there?
It's the culture we've created, being safe, not only for ourselves, but for the community. So,
Lean in just a little bit. Lean in just a little bit more.
this is the culture we have, maintaining not only our safety, but so we're at 100% to help the community when they need it. And that comes down to training, being around proper leadership, and training our newest members, treating them at a level of their experience where we don't push them into something until they're completely ready, or you put them with a senior firefighter to ensure that they're learning on the job and effectively fighting these fires and treating the patients like they need to.
There's a whole nother level. I've got friends up in Ohio that are guys. I've got one that's a state certifier of all the firemen in the state of Ohio. So he's got a huge job, and then I've got several that are firefighters and police officers scattered throughout Ohio, and that there's a lot of them I grew up with, went to high school and junior high and elementary school with, and they've had great careers. They've lost some people in the brotherhood and sisterhood because we have both firemen and firewomen, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
And so we have to look at all of the aspects that come with this job, and there's something to be said about when the stations are quiet. That when they're quiet, I think it's a great thing. When there's nothing happening at a station, I just feel like the city is so much better off. But there's still a lot going on at the station, even though it's quiet. But you guys are preparing for when it could be its loudest. We've been blessed, I think, in this city. When was the last time and not fire, but massive fire? When's the last time our city saw something where we had to pull resources in from other areas other than forest?
Other than forest, well, it's our big weather events like our hurricanes. But I will tell you, some of our larger, commercial structure fires here and there, it's not unusual for us to call Charlotte County, Sarasota County. Our brush fires, quite often we call resources from outside of Sarasota and Charlotte County, even, because we get some rather large wild urban interface fires, which take a lot of resources. And I wanted to back up for a minute, John. I forgot to talk. So I talked about all this equipment and the training and things we do. And, there's two other aspects that I didn't mention that I wanted to is, one, we have pure fitness trainers. So we have guys out there that are kind of pushing our firefighters to be better than what they were, to try and be in better shape and better improved on what they do. And then the other part of that is making sure that our mental health, is good. Years ago and in many years that I was in the fire service, we didn't talk about things. And so, as today's a big day being Veterans Day, and we lose a lot of veterans to suicide. There's a lot of first responders to the same thing and have challenges from PTSD and things like that. So we're always looking for resources and abilities. We've got a new 125-bed mental health facility that's coming into Northport, which we're excited about because I've been reaching out to them to try and partner up and hope that they have some 24/7, 365 availability if we have a member in crisis and somebody that we can connect them to locally right away and get something done. We do have resources for that, but not local in Northport. So I'm excited that might be an option for our people. But just reaching out to them, we have peer trainers, part of a program for PTSD. Anytime we have a call of significance, they'll do a debriefing or a defusing, which is completely confidential. All the members can speak, kind of like frankly. And the best way to remove some of that stress sometimes is just to talk about it. And I've always said, the general public, you have to be a little twisted sometimes to do this job because you have to be able to shrug off some things that God didn't really intend all of us to see, I think. And so when I said earlier about not having video cameras and everything on scene all the time, it's difficult. And you've seen it through the news over the years where you see police officers or first responders and there's an offhanded comment or things like that. And those sometimes are things that people are just saying because that's how they blow off steam. But if the general public hears that, it's never okay. And so we've had to find different outlets and ways to communicate and have those sessions and make sure that we're talking to each other and making sure that we're diffusing those things properly and removing that stress. And then, people watching out to see if differences in behavior and make sure we can connect them to resources and things like that. So,
it's interesting because I don't think I paid attention to that. The mental side of things, yes, because I worked at a level 1 trauma center in Columbus, Ohio. So, when I left there, I jokingly always said that I had more hands inside of people's bodies than people I knew. And I never thought of it stress-wise, but I do think about stuff that I did 30 years ago. It's still in my head, and it's not an adverse thing for me, but I could see where that could be. I think it may be because I've been disconnected from that style of life now. I didn't put in 20, 30, 40 years worth of my time, but I'm super glad that we're talking about this, because I think the citizens actually need to hear that you're looking at the totality of a fireman who contributes to every citizen in the city. And when you're looking at the total fireman or firewoman, you're really taking care of an asset to the city.
Absolutely.
I think that's no different than taking care of a truck or a station at that point.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean disrespect. I mean total respect.
No, absolutely. It's the worst thing that we can do when somebody, we talk about it, when your arm is broken, you can take an x-ray and you say, okay, it's going to take 6 weeks to heal. We're going to set it 6 weeks. You're going to be better. You're fine. You're good as new. And dealing with mental health issues, whether you believe in faith in God or whether you believe in something else, I think we would all agree, however we got here, we're all wired differently. And so different things affect all of us differently. We carry different burdens. There are different things that weigh heavily on us. And, if you have kids, certainly, kids calls are harder. If you don't have kids, then you might handle that a little bit easier. But, it's all these different things are different for everybody on how they connect and how they handle it. And Chief Lane, I heard him use an analogy a long time ago. He talked about everybody carries around a bag, and every time you see something or experience something, you put it in the bag. And when you're seeing traumatic events and doing things, it's a heavier thing that you put in the bag. And if you don't figure out a way to empty that bag out faster than you're filling it up, that's when you get into problems. And that's what happens with some people. And, some of us have a bigger bag that we can carry around, and some people have a smaller bag, and some people are emptying it faster than others. And so it's different for everybody. And the worst thing that we can do is not be cognizant of that, because when our members, anywhere, police, fire, anything like that, experience this, our veterans, when they go into crisis or they're having an issue, if we're not helping them out after all that they've done for the community and for us and for each other, then we've missed the mark. And so I think we try, but it almost always feels like there's still more. We're always still grasping what more could we do, what more could there be, because anytime you lose somebody to a suicide, or even if it's not a suicide, they just can't do the job anymore. And, we've experienced some of that in our department and in our local area. And it's always very difficult.
We're talking about the service and the veterans, and I heard a description of how things started. And when I went into the service, I never thought about it, but it was a clear message the other day where they said, when you first go in, you're put into your platoon, and you may have 10 people from different areas and different walks of life, but they do that for a reason. It just gives a different cohesiveness that you got to work through, and you got to learn from each other, and you got to depend on each other. And I always had that mindset built in. There are people that have trouble with that concept, that have to work their way through that and work their way into the concept of being cognitive of others and how they react and what they say. And I think those are a lot of the things that you're talking about now, and how you guys are really attacking that. And I wish I had more time in the show to talk about that. Maybe we can get into that more later, but we've been on for about 55 minutes now, and we're almost to 4 o'clock. And I want to say thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you guys being part of it, and so glad that we're going to be doing this every month, every second Monday of the month. We're going to be doing this, and it's going to be fantastic. And I look forward to working with you more.
I'd like to get Chief Engels back on when his mic's a little bit better too. I will tell you, he's a very, very humble guy, but he does a phenomenal job for us. We're very, very lucky to have him, not only as the district chief, but doing all the PIO stuff and all of our outward facing social media. He does a phenomenal job. And we're really,
love
really
to do
happy
that.
for So thank you, Dave.
And Dave,
John,
thank you so much
for having
being
us.
You're welcome.
Thank
This
you.
is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 FM saying thank you so much for joining in. Please share this video, and a special shout out again to Northport Forward, to Allstate, Hardin Insurance Group, Remax Palm Realty of Venice, and also Lions Title. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye now.